the Shabbos, not help him move himself from his that. Again, there's no rules. There's two cognizant of the knowledge of the Torah that might be around, but that it's very good.
Bayam Darkecha.
Second place, man.
There's no football star people. Yeah.
I want to thank the Parnas Hayoim and Yehuda Behar, who's sponsoring Le'ul Nishma Shmuel ben Eliezer and Sham Shav Aliyah and Shema Simcha Nachas and Bracha. The Parnas Hashon Le'ul Nishma Shrav Gedaliah ben Reb Shimon Sham Shav Aliyah. Okay. Bayam Darkecha, the Maimer of Simcha, page Kuf Nun. Kuf Nun. It's loved Hashem Hagrim Ha'ikari Lahas V'Sukashehem Royim Nidmalhem Shenichshelu Ba'aveir. By people who are serious about their Yiddishkeit, by Avdei Hashem, the main cause of Asvus, aside from different things that happen in life, but internally, the main cause of Asvus is when they see, or it seems to them, that they have failed and that they've committed some Aveira. Either they have failed in the area of Surmei Ra by doing some Aveira, or by not living up to the Asay Toiv, to the commitments, to the mitzvahs that they wanted to. And this is the main cause of Atzvus in the life of an Eved Hashem. He feels that he's not doing well with his Yiddishkeit. Something has gone wrong with his Yiddishkeit, and it's understandable. He's serious about it. If a person is not serious, it doesn't bother him, but if he's serious, it causes him to be sad. This sadness comes davka because the person recognizes the chashivas of Avodas Hashem. How important it is. And because of that, Kishlon Ba'avodah, when there's a failure in Kishlon Ba'aveira, when there's a failure that takes place with an Aveira, by doing an Aveira, a Chayser Hatzlacha, or he's unsuccessful in doing a mitzvah, something that he wanted to do that he's used to keeping and so on, Shover Osam Miyad. This causes them to be very broken. This is the main cause of Atzvus in the life of an Eved Hashem. And the Farid Bez Hashem is ha'inyan l'kamach halakim kadei shenuchal l'miyas Hashem la'avinu heitev. So it's complicated because, on the one hand, it is vital that the person takes his Yiddishkeit seriously. And Aveira is a serious thing, depending upon what happened, but it's a serious matter. And it's important that the person continue to be machshav his avodas Hashem in that way. On the other hand, atzvus, as we learned at the beginning of the Maira, sadness and depression, will usually cause many other things in his Yiddishkeit to fall away, and could cause a complete collapse in the person's avodas Hashem. So it's a very delicate balance between being honest and cheshbon nefesh and doing one's best not to fail and to succeed, but at the same time, when it doesn't work out, because inevitably there are glitches in our lives, and when it doesn't work out, that a person should be able to pick himself up and to move forward. Ki hayetzahar mishtadel moi. The Svarma Kedoshim is brought down in the Nesiv Shalom brings a lot, and Sladim Svarma brings this, that it's the most dangerous time is not the Aveira itself, it's the moment after the Aveira. Aveira is, of course, is a failure. Something went wrong, there was an Aveira, but that feeling that a person has after the Aveira and what could potentially go wrong as the result of the Aveira is really the person is in greater danger after the Aveira than the Aveira itself. Well, the mashal that we find in the Chofetz Chaim gave a mashal about a person who's in the middle of the battlefield, and he gets nicked by a bullet or something, not anything lethal, but he gets nicked by it, and he sits himself down on a rock and he starts looking at his first aid kit, working on himself. In the meantime, the whole enemy comes, the whole army comes, and they blow the guy to pieces. So he says that you're being metapel with your injury, which you need to. You need to take care of the injury. You were hurt, but at the same time, the type of tipul and the way that you're sitting there now, instead of moving forward and getting out of the dangerous place, is going to end up destroying you. So, on the one hand, you're right. Something happened, and you were injured, you were hurt, and it needs to be addressed. But on the other hand, it has to be done the right way, in the right time, not to sit around in the middle of the battlefield and get yourself killed. Because the Yetzer Hara is mishtadel moi. L'hapil is oivdei Hashem is barach la'atzos me'advarim ha'elu. This is not one. This is the main strategy of the Yetzer Hara when it comes to serious people, to people who are avdei Hashem, to cause them to be tzibrochen over an injury in their Yiddishkeit, and by doing that to pull them completely away. And the fact that he says, the fact that we're going to spend some time on this, you shouldn't be shocked. Because atzvus, sadness, is the Pesach, is the opening and the root of all nefilas. And the main source of atzvus by Avdei Hashem is not in Gashmis, it's not because of the economy or because of other things. It's because of what's going wrong in their avodas Hashem. Therefore, chayva aleinu lilmoid heitev ech lahashiv milchames she'ara al tainus hayetzer b'bul. Therefore, it's an obligation to learn very thoroughly how to respond in a strong way. To fight back when it comes to these tinus of the Yetzer Hara and the bilbul and the confusion of the Yetzer Hara after a person has a kishlon, some failure in his Yiddishkeit. There's so much written about this in the Svarma Kedoshim. We see in the parsha that even Aaron Kohen, by Aaron Cohen that he wasn't. Moshe Rabbeinu had to tell him Kravel Mizbeach to come to the Mizbeach because he imagined when he saw the Mizbeach, he saw the animal, so it reminded him of his failure, of the Egel, Azor, of his Madrega, his failure. The animal was a reminder of the Egel, of the calf, of the Egel Azor, and he couldn't come to the Mizbeach. So as a person like Aaron, his whole Metzias was a Metzias of Avodas Hashem, but because of that, anytime he saw an Egel, he saw a cow, he saw a calf, it was Gewalt. And what was his cheshbon by the Egel Azor? He had a cheshbon of Kedusha by the Egel Azor. It wasn't Avodah Zarah. He was trying to do something. He was trying to save Am Yisrael in his own way. And yet, wherever he looked, he saw this. He saw like this Egel, like winking at him, smiling. You're going to come to the Mizbeach. So even Aaron HaKohen had this Egel of running away. On his Madreg, he was going to. Moshe Rabbeinu had to pull him. Call him Mizbeach. So Rashi says, brings down from Chazal, you were chosen to do this. Why are you embarrassed? Why are you running away? Kach nivcharta. So the Svarim said, Kach nivcharta means that one of the reasons that Hashem has chosen you and He loves you so much is because it hurts you that something went wrong. It bothers you. That's a chashuv thing. But the tachlis is not that you should run away from the Mizbeach. Not to run away. To go to the Mizbeach. Moshe Rabbeinu practically has to drag him to the Mizbeach. Aaron doesn't want to go. So this is by Noived Hashem. It's a very, very big problem. Beis lefamim adam yodeya shu nechshol beizadavar lefi madrigaso. Sometimes it's obvious to a person that he has been nichshel in something according to his level. He overslept. He slept too much instead of what he was supposed to be doing, sleeping. Or he was saying things he shouldn't have said. And how much more so? He did something really bad. He did something that did a serious issue. And the Yitzhahara uses this. The Yitzhahara uses this as material, as terrific material, to bring this person to a feeling of Yeush, of not to go to the Mizbeach, to run away from the Mizbeach. And this is the very, very effective message that comes from the Yitzhahara, and all of us here have heard this. The Yitzhahara says, "Kvar nafalta." No, you already failed. It's already verfallen. Kvar ein tzaddik. Memela, you're not a tzaddik, and the madrega that you were working on and all that, you're not. That's not you. Kvar ein tam lahamshich l'samitz b'avoda. So why continue pushing yourself? You botched up anyway. You have fallen. Your status as tzaddik has been lost. So if you're not a tzaddik, let's say, okay, maybe you're not a Russia, but you're not a tzaddik. So if you're not a tzaddik, then you don't have to do this mitzvah. If you're not a tzaddik, you might as well do that avayim. Kilo tarmisses are just for the biggest tzaddikim. You're not a big tzaddik. You're not a tzaddik. So so you might as well enjoy an avayim, or not to bother being. Since you slept through this, you might as well not be punctual and careful with tomorrow or the next day. It comes in this voice. The whole point of the Yitzhar is to weaken you right now. Because of what happened, because of what went wrong in the past, what went wrong a minute ago, an hour ago or a day ago, but the ikr is to be machlish, to weaken the person. And it can yesh baya. So here, as I said before, we have a problem. What's the problem? The problem is it's a person, and Oived Hashem always has to make a cheshbon nefesh. In other words, you're supposed to remember the Aveira. You're supposed to think about what went wrong. How is he supposed to correct yourself? So on the one hand, a cheshbon nefesh is a very big part of Avodas Hashem. It's a davar yisodi b'avodah. B'vaday she'adam tzarich livdok es atzmo. Right, like we say in the Haggadah, Chayv Adam Lisas Atzmo K'liyatzim Mitzrayim. So it's brought down at Shmuel, other tzaddikim. Chayv Adam Lisas Atzmo. The person has to see himself. But that's not how the Chassidus of him end. This lesson of the Haggadah. I'll explain that in a minute. So a person is obligated to look at himself. Ulitztayer al mechshalosav. And to feel upset about his failures. And without that, as I'm the person does not examine his life, then besides not fixing what went wrong, he's not going to feel any obligation to move forward. To progress in his Avodas Hashem, to improve in his Avodas Hashem. So that is also that he'll mess up again. He's not paying attention. He's not careful. He's not thinking about things. He's not making cheshbon nefesh. So it'll happen again. But on the other hand, the cheshbon nefesh itself and this examination, can bring him to sadness, and sadness is the sharish of all nefilus. It's the main source of nefilus in Avodas Hashem. So the person's in this difficult spot. Now, obviously, there's a huge divergence here between the way of Chassidus and the way of Mussar. It's a huge divergence. One could say this is probably the main nakuda, where the Baalei Mussar and the Talmidei Hashem parted ways. What's the balance between Cheshbon and Nefesh and Simcha, Atzvus, this entire mix? This was a big parting of ways between the Baalei Mussar and the Baalei Chassidus. The Baalei Mussar also were aware of the danger of sadness, and they also encouraged Simcha as a very, very valuable midah in Avodas Hashem. But how much of an emphasis to place on the examination and the tzar that one experienced over the examination? That when one learns the Mussar Sfarim, the examination is so thorough, which is very admirable and honest, that it's even a constant requirement to examine the good things that you do. Not just to find the errors or the faults in your examination, but to even look at the healthy parts of your life and to ask yourself over and over and over again, is this truly healthy? Am I being dishonest? Am I doing this just because of so people should admire me? Why am I doing this good thing? So it's not just about looking for faults, for failures, but it's examining over and over and over again the good things in your life and questioning your motivations and so on. There's a huge emphasis in the Mussar Sfarim. It's different Sfarim, but different madregas of. But they were very, very, very honest people, and they insisted upon this self-awareness and honesty, and through that they created some very exalted tzaddikim. But in all honesty, they also crushed many, many regular people, and continue to do so. Not with that intention, Chas v'Shalom. The intention is to produce tzaddikim. and they themselves were great tzaddikim. But this is a very, very difficult balance to find. And on the other hand, in Chassidus, it could lead to another type of a mistake. This, which you also see very often by Chassidus, by those who are carrying the banner of Chassidus, it can go the other extreme, where the feeling is just everything's besimcha. There's no need for self-examination at all, as we've spoken about a million times over the years. Rabbi Nachman, Zitchev, Hashem loves you, he's a misparbacha, everything is gewaldig, don't even look at your averos. They're going to get you down. It's awesome. Has caused many, many people, that way of thinking has caused many people to become unhinged from the Avodas Hashem. So, all the tzaddikim, both the Balei Musa and the Balei Chassidus, their intention was to bring a person to a healthy place in the middle. The emphasis is a different emphasis, but both ways could potentially be dangerous if it's not properly balanced.
Weren't there elements in Hasidus that were also closer to the Bali Muslim, like cuts?
Yes. In certain ways, not that they marched to the tune of the Bali Musa, but there's no question that in Pshischa and Kutsk there was some pulling back of that. But they were very, very strong in their teachings that it should not be at the price of Simcha and one's Avodah. But it's a delicate, Kutsk is a delicate balance. So here's an example. So what I mentioned before, it's brought down in Tfeshmul from Alexander. He was the brother of the Yismach Yisrael. So Tfeshmul was the brother. Yeah, so the son. Forgive me, all Alexander Chassidim out there. It's either brother or the son. Connect this right now. Tfeshmul was, I think, the brother of the Yismach Yisrael. I'm not sure. So anyway, he was the Alexander Rebbe. He was a tzaddik Yisod Olam. So he writes there. I'll look in the Sefer Mr. Shem after this. On Chayv Adam Liros Atzma Kilutzim Mitzrayim. So he says, Chayv Adam Liros Atzma. That a person has to be honest and to look at himself. Chayv Adam Liros Atzma. So, Chayv Adam Liros Atzma. But the way he explains the Torah of Chayv Adam Liros Atzma is that you have to be careful. You have to see, he says, you have to be careful not just to see the faults inside of you, but you have to see the etzem of who you are. Chayvan was atzmai. I have to read this. Let me share it. I'll be right back.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Okay. First, let's check his credentials. Kijk, dus dan met een smol zwie. Ben lo is het tzaddik. Yechiel Shai. So he was a brother. That's right. Okay, so on Pesach, he says on this Torah, Chayv Adam Liros Atzmai. I still have a sticky nearby. Yeah. B'chol dar v'dar, Chayv Adam Liros Atzmai Kilu Yatzim Mitzrayim. Right, getting ready for Pesach. Ula yesh leimer liros hu miloshen Chazal. When it says liros, to see. So the tzaddik says, maybe he says, Ula yesh leimer liros hu miloshen Chazal. It's loshen of the Gemara we find in a number of places. Royani as divrei admai. Royani as divrei admai is that when we even say that in the vernacular, that when you when you agree with somebody, you were thinking about, and now you're beginning to understand, you could say, I see what you mean, right? Liros. I can see what I see what you mean. I see what you're saying. But even though a person feels that he's in a low place and he recognizes his failures and so on, lo yomer lenafsho noash. He should not give up. He should not be misyayish. Ki af shemida shiflus v'achna hi mida tova. Because even though the cheshbon nefesh is good, and to be humble is good, and to have self-awareness is right of the things that are not good in your life, that you've done wrong, it's good. Hi mida tova. Avaloi sheyem al yidei zen noash. But the point is not to bring you to the conclusion that you're a failure, or to give up. To the point that you can't be sovereign yourself. You can't stand yourself. Like it says by the menorah, the oil, the olives, crush the olives, but the point of being crushed is to bring more light. Kosis lamor. You crush the olives to get the oil so you can light the menorah, not to extinguish the menorah, not to extinguish your life. The point of that moment of being crushed is not to be extinguished. It's to bring more light. This is not from the father, from Kodesh Zamag, it's from his son, Ramoshala. Hachnohi rak lamor. He was one that explained that Torah, that humility is the purpose of humility, of being in that place is rak lamor. Kosis is lamor, is to bring more light. Shiyala idei zeh achar kach l'avodas Hashem v'yo'ir b'haTorah, to bring you more Torah into your life. Avlo kosis lamanachas. Like it says that the Rashi brings down, but by the menorah, not kosis. We don't have that. We don't do that. But it's not required when it comes to the mincha, to menachas. Menachas meaning not to cause you to stop your avodas Hashem. Menachas is like a lashon of menucha, that you should stop and run away from your avodas Hashem. She'emunach haydezeh. U'kamosha kosav haRebbe or Hashem haRebbe Abunim. This pshischa, this kotz pshischa. As the Rebbe Abunim said, Rashi, Kosav Ish Moshe Anav Ma'od. So Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble person in the world. Here's Rashi, Shofal v'Savlon. Rashi says, what does it mean? What's the anivus of Moshe? Shofal. Shofal means lowly, humble. V'Savlon. Now Savlon is translated, Rashi is explained as being Usovel, meaning he's patient. Savlon, he's patient with But the tzaddik says, "Af b'shefluso." Shafal v'savla means that even his shefluso, even when he was feeling that feeling of whatever Moshe Rabbeinu, feeling crushed, having not done what he expected to do with his madrega. Af b'shefluso yizbol es atzmo. He should still be sovel himself. He was still sovel himself. And to lift his heart up, and Moshe Rabbeinu would recover from that moment of feeling horrible, whatever is on his madrega. Shofal v'savlon. Savlon, that he was sovel himself. He never ever hated himself. He never turned away from himself. He never ran away from himself. That's the trick over here. The combination of shofel v'savlon. That's how he explains, and that's what it means. That's how he explains that a person should always see himself, and even though he sees himself, and there are ugly things in himself, nevertheless, like he says, he should also say, "I see who you are." Like when you agree with somebody, I see who you are, meaning I see that there's much more to you than the failure that you just messed up. I see that there's much more to you than that. I see who you are. This is how it'll end in Kotzk, you understand? It's a different ending than you'll see in others in the Musa Sfar. It's a different ending. It always has a good ending. Yeah, and Kotzk is very, very tough. It's very tough. But the ending is good. Because the ending is always Afal Pichein, go deeper than that. There's something that's yet deeper. And that's where many of the Musa Sfarim leave you with a feeling of hopelessness. That was never Chalila, the intention of the tzaddikim, but there can often be a feeling of hopelessness. So with all of the talk that you have in a certain part of the Musa world, of the Bali Musa, of man's greatness, but the message is that you're not there, and you're not there. You have this in you. You have this greatness in you, and you therefore have to examine whether every single part of your life is living up to that greatness. But what do you do when you come to the conclusion that it's not? So we're usually left without this ending, without the ending. So this is the challenge. On the one hand, the cheshbon nefesh, but which is obviously very important. Liros es atzmo, to see yourself honestly, but on the other hand, that it shouldn't lead to atzvus. And this is what the tzaddikim are talking. This is a concern that all the tzaddikim have. Liros es atzmo, but then liros es atzmo. Yes, to see the ugliness, to make a cheshbon nefesh, but then the Lira says atzma, that there's something deeper than that. And that's not the atzma. The essence of who you are is not that. Lira says atzma means to see shafal v'savlam, to feel that lowness, and to be humbled, and to make a cheshbon nefesh. But v'savlam means to be sovel who you are, to tolerate yourself. And how do you tolerate yourself instead of running away from yourself? By examining your greatness as well, and tapping into that greatness that you have. So a lot of times growing up, the kids get only the first half of the message, either from their teachers or their parents. They get the first half, but they don't get the second half to be served themselves. The way Rav Kook in the second Kavitz of the Shemona Kavasim, it's Kuf Nun in the second Kavitz. There Rav Kook writes about part of tshuva is, which is also brought down there, that tshuva is being able to be moichel yourself. You'll never find such a thing in the Musa Sfar. Being able to forgive yourself. It sounds more like the terminology of modern terminology, which Rav Kook was a very modern person in his way of thinking. The avodah of cheshbon nefesh, but at the same time being able to be moichel oneself, to be sovel oneself, that avodah is not easy. Mistakes are made all the time in that avodah. So, Vaderechi, Lahafrid ben ha'over lahoiva. The main derech that we see of how to be metapel with this in the Svarma Kadosha is to make a chiluk between the past and the present. Vainu, to separate between the past and the present. We've spoken about this many, many times. Lahafrid ben ha'over lahoiva. Vainu, she'yikova zman lehezboinen b'meshahaya. We see this in the Tanya, another Svarm. You have a set time to make your cheshbon nefesh. Well, that time is Thursday night at 10 o'clock. That's when you make your cheshbon nefesh. You have a kriyas zman, a seder, in making cheshbon nefesh, by kriyas malamita, or by taking chatzayis, or whatever. She covers man lizboini b'meshahaya, to take a look back and to examine. Hayim tzarich tikun ve'ech l'sakin, and in that context to think what needs to be fixed and how to fix it. And at that time, you could indulge in embarrassment and shame, and those emotions are healthy. But that's it. And the time has a kriyas, whatever it is, from 10 to 10:30, whatever that time is. You get up and you go to the mizbeach. You move on. And not to think at all al mashahay. Al rak al achshav. Only al achshav. Now, this moment, zehu. Not at all, not to go back at all, the tiniest little glance at the other. Again, like being in the battlefield and looking all the time to see what's going on. Not to look back at all. Only to go forward. This is the opposite, even outside of the world of Avodas Hashem. This is the opposite of what people are doing now when it comes, so many people are tzebrachim when it comes to the Indian of the Milchama, because they're constantly looking back at all these things. It's a sickness. It's a sickness. Constantly going back and looking at the horrors, constantly looking back. And all of this is the same way you see. That's why we have to be careful, because it's the same thing with the cheshbon nefesh. Why is an extreme, unhealthy cheshbon nefesh so dangerous? Because it's mislabish in a mitzvah. Because you think this is what Hashem wants. Hashem wants you to be a sensitive Jew that's living a life of honesty and self-examination. That's why it's so dangerous. So you have the same thing. You have people that every single second they're going back, Gewalt, looking at footage of October 7th and going back over all the different pictures and images and thoughts. They go back to those places all the time. And the feeling is, this is the Ratzon Hashem. Because Hashem wants me to be an Ohev Yisrael. And what does it mean to be an Ohev Yisrael? To constantly look back at some picture of when they grabbed some girl and they're pulling her around in the streets someplace. So that's my way of empathizing with Am Yisrael. And that's bringing a lot of business in for the therapists, a lot of business. And it's not adding to anybody's Yiddishkeit, and it's not called Ahavas Yisrael. It just plays into a certain unhealthy way of thinking that was part of your life before October 7th and will continue to be chas v'chalila after, long after the war ends. It's not about October 7th. It's about an unhealthy personality, an unhealthy way of obsessing over the past. Instead of spending you spend it. You koveya zman, and there's a kriya zman, and just like we have Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is one day. Didn't make the Chacham did not make a monthly Tisha B'Av. Much to the disappointment of some of these. They did not. There's no monthly Tisha B'Av. There's no. And even when it came to Yom Kippur Cotton, I don't have to tell you, the Chassidim were not particularly fond of it. It's not something that was a regular part of the schedule, because the tzaddikim understood that it plays very strongly into the emotions of people who are unhealthy, and it's mislabesh in Avodas Hashem. The person feels that this is what Hashem wants. This is what it means to be a real Jew. To think back all the time to the pictures of October 7th. To make an album of October 7th. To keep it on your phone. You don't have to have, people used to have the albums in a closet. Now you carry it in your pocket. So you look back at all these things. That's the Ratzon Hashem. Because since you love Jews, you're constantly in that place. So it's particularly dangerous because the word Aveira comes from the word Ovar, Tfer Shlomo says. The word Aveira, a sin, comes from the word Ovar. Ovar means the past. Because the source of future sins is being lost in the past. Just thinking about your past sins. That's why Ovar and Aveira is the same word.
I was thinking that if you have savlanis,
if you have what?
If you have savlanis, you have some patience, then you know you're going to get to that cheshbon nefesh. later
Right.
on, tomorrow, I'll get to it. You can put it to the side,
Yeah,
and then you can move on because
100%. I know that I have my kriyas, and I'm going to come back to that. There's a Tisha B'Av. There's a Tisha B'Av. And Hashem said, designate that time for time of crying. I have the Tisha B'Av. And therefore, correct, I will be patient and wait. I'm not going to allow my darker side to pull me into some horrible pit. And not only does it pull me into something, but it has this way of saying, this is a very firm thing that you're doing. It's a very, very firm thing that you're doing, that you're making it Tisha B'Av in the middle of, other. This is a very firm thing. Because really, people are very, very serious in their love of other Jews. They're constantly thinking about October 7th. That's not true. That's unhealthy. And it's not the Ratzon Hashem. Not about the Churban Beis HaMikdash, not about the Holocaust, and not about October 7th. You kaveh zman. It's navaida. It's part of Avodas Hashem. It's not just to let yourself get swept away by your feelings and by your emotions and so on. It's not the life of an Avodas Hashem. The life of an Avodas Hashem is the moich is in control of the emotions. The mind is in control of the emotions. Not that the emotions control you, but you're in control of the emotions. So this is just, we see this when it comes to this avodah, that the ikar is separating between the past and the present. V'liachshav al mashahaya, el rak al achshav, not mashahaya, rak al achshav. And that, as we'll see, is the war that Amalek conducts to take away from you your achshav. That's why Reishis Goyim Amalek is, the first letters is rega, which means moment. Because the whole avodah of Amalek is to take away your present and to throw you either into the past or the demyonis of the future. That whatever, we don't know what the future holds. To be afraid of the future. Gewalt. What's going to be? What's going to be? Also, that he's running around. What's going to be? Gewalt. So the same people who are watching all the pictures of the past, they're also crying and nervous and shaken up. What's going to be the next sorrow? Or the way that it was by COVID, what's the next, what was the lotion they used for the next variation? Variant. When's the next variant? It's waiting for you around the corner. And everywhere the hypochondriac was walking, the variant was peeking out. I'm waiting for you. Who are you? I'm the next variant. There's some people living. There are people still walking around like that. The next variant. The ikar is you're not living in the moment that you're in, and the Amalek takes it away from you. By obsessing over the past, you obsess over the future, and you don't live in the present. That's the formula of misery. That's the formula. And that's Amalek's Hatzlacha. That's the biggest Hatzlacha. There's a word from the Teres Yeshuv from the Heilige Jikava. It says by Amalek, Kiyad al Keis Ka, L'chom Hashem Amalek. So the name of Hashem, Kiyad al Keis Ka, is the Yud Hey. So the name of Hashem is Yud Kei Vav Kei, right? So Amalek takes away the Vav Kei. Kiyad al Keis Ka, L'chom Hashem Amalek Vav Kei. So in the word Haya, you have Haya and Yiya, right? That's the past and the future. So Amalek doesn't mind that you think about the past, you worry and you're miserable over what happened, and you're worried about the future. Haya and Yiya, that Amalek wants you to think about always Haya and Yiya. But Amalek, Kiyad al Keis Ka, takes away the Vav, because the word Hoveh is has the Vav. That Amalek doesn't want you to have the Vav. Yad al Keis Ka, Amalek, the Judikva says that Amalek doesn't want you to have the Haya. He wants you to have only the Haya and Yiya. Your whole life should be just about what was and what's going to be, but never about the moment that you're in. Not living this moment, not being in this moment. And in the Lashon of Dessler, who was, of course, one of the greatest of the late Bali Musa, but Bal Musa was very, very deeply attached to Chassidus also. So the way he put it, we know that there's a famous saying that the Arva Ayin, the Asadayin, the past is gone, and the future hasn't happened yet, and the Hoiv is Keherifai, it passes like a Keherifai, like the wink of an eye. So if Dessler's way of putting it was, he said, the Lashon was that the Avar, Ha'avar Zechreinis, Ha'avar, the past is just memories, like pictures, memories. Ha'avar Zechreinis, Ha'asid Dimyonis V'tikvis, is imagination and hopes, imagination. V'ha'hoive, the present, he says, Nisyonis. That's how you put it. Ha'avar Zechreinis, Ha'asid Dimyonis V'tikvis, V'ha'hoive Nisyonis. And that's what you're living in right now. The nisayon of this moment, that's the avoid of a person's life. But instead, what Amalek wants is to take away from you the hoveh, this moment, and you should drive around the whole time in the over, what happened, and in the future, the myonis. The main thing is that you should not pass the nisyonis of the moment that you're in. And that's the most effective way that Amalek has us messing up the hoveh. Kiyad al kes ka. To take away the hoveh. To take away the hoveh.
But meaning even if everything is great, right? Meaning you think back and say, wow, life was amazing, life's gonna be amazing. If you forget about the present,
Sure, they could do it that way
trip
also.
over that as well.
Yeah, that's for a different type of personality, but it's just as damaging. Yeah, to make believe that nothing was wrong, everything's evolving. It's the other flip side, and Mustamit's going to be fine in the future. But the ikra is right now, so you don't have to be. You see, it worked out, and it's going to work out. So that could make you into a lazy, unambitious, unmotivated person in the present. You have because in the zechronis, when looking back, you could call the things that make like is. Everything was fine. It will be fine, and Mistama is fine. But your mother's saying, no, it's not. It's not. It's not fine. Or your Rebbe saying, no, it's not fine. But that's Amalek. Amalek always will handle with the past and the future to get you. The tachlis of Amalek is always to just take away the present. The ikr is the rega. Reishis goyim Amalek. Reish gimel ay. This rega, this moment, zelo shalcha. Not to be in that moment. That's what Avdasla was saying is zechroinus, dimyoinus, nisyoinus. This moment is a moment of nisyoinus. Right now to be successful. To pass the test of this moment. That's the avoid. This moment. Commercial Kozov, page Kufn Alf, let's just read this little paragraph. Hayom im Bekolos Shmo. Rabbi Nachman brought this pasuk in his Torah of Hayom. Shemum is bezeh. She'adam tzarich lachshov shehayom hu maskelas avoda. You make that time that you set aside for the cheshbon nefesh. Otherwise, every moment you live in the present. Hayom im Bekolos Shmo. Today, listen to Hashem's voice, which means right now. She'adam tzarich lachshov shehayom hu maskelas avoda. That's the way to think. Kilo, this is the beginning of my Avodas Hashem. I'm just now starting. There is no past. Right now, today, Erev Shabbos, Pasha Shmini. Should I get up and go to shul? Yes. Not to go to places I have on my record. You take out your baseball card. When we were kids, I don't know they still play with baseball cards because there's no need to probably. They have everything on their phones. But baseball cards was the biggest thing. So if you had a Mickey Mantle, if you had a Chasheva card, you had a Willie Mays, you had a Chasheva card, and you looked at it and you saw all the statistics. It was good. batting average 324. Wow. And then every now and then in your batch, because there was always that thing they gave you, it cost 12 cents. And in the thing that you got in the packet, the little packet with the tray for gum, in that little packet. So then, they of course they would never put in what?
I just realized that also.
Yeah, in that little packet, so they only like you'd have to buy 100 of them to get like a woolly maze or a mantle, right? But there was always like this card you turned over. You never heard of this guy. He's like, even the picture's like Lo Yislach, And you turn over the card and it says batting average, 158. Slugging average 0. Strikeouts, So the Indian of Amalek is to get you to look back at your statistics, right? And you look back at the record, and you see that this is like you're having a bad season. So you're having a bad season, so that's it.
What happens if you have a good season?
Well, that's what Mike was saying before. You can fall into a dimmy like that too. And if you're having a good season, then that should motivate you to continue on and not to mess up your record. That's fine. But when a person looks back and he sees the other, and he keeps on looking back at the scorecard, but Amalek wants you to do look back at the scorecard. If it's a good scorecard, the Amalek doesn't want you to look once. If it's a bad scorecard, you look back and you say, no, this year already it's not working out. This is ready for fall. Maybe next year. But the Torah says, the pasuk says, Hayom, today is your first day up at bat. That's it. Hayom. Pay attention to the ball. Stop thinking about your statistics. Hayom. It's your first day up. Your first game. That's it. Hayom. It's my first day. Maskos avoid. And to come into this day, it's the first day of the season. It's already, July or August. It's chadshus. B'chol yoyim v'shov, afilu b'chol rega, u'b'frat achrei nefila. And especially that's important, achrei nefila. If you mess something up, it's especially important. If it was a bad season so far, something got messed up, it's especially important, achrei nefila, that today should be a day of hayom. Not to let the Amalek gloat over the past and take away the present from you, but to be in that place of hayom in Mekol Zushma. We need to learn this more and to go over the note as Hashem. Do that next time.